welcome to another Geek Chat TV show, or online show, should I say, not TV show, but anyway. And this week we're discussing prices in gaming.
Okay.
Not just games, but also consoles. And a lot of people I talk to always say to me, I can't afford a game, you know, there's no point buying a game till it's cheaper, it's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. And I really wanted to get a bit more information about this before I talked about it, so I did a bit of research and found a few things out.
One of us did.
Well, you did research last time, so I've got a little bit here. But I was really interested to find out what people are willing to pay for games and what people think now to what they've paid years ago.
Okay.
Going back 20 years when we first sort of bought games and parents bought games for us. And some of the things are quite surprising, actually, like what you'll find out, what today's comparison are to other games. And you've also, when I looked at this, I was looking about, people a lot mention about inflation, so you've got to take that into account as well. So obviously what games would be cost. Let's say, for example, you bought a console years ago, what that'd be costing you now if you bought it at the price you bought it then. So it's a bit weird, but I'll go through it with it.
I'm 32, so I can remember buying like original PlayStation 1 games.
Okay.
But pre that, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
So I am going to be interested to see.
Did you buy? What was the first game you bought? Was it a PlayStation game? You didn't buy a SNES game? Or
I probably
N64?
did, but it was probably more, with parents' money. Or
Yeah,
they were there and
I
they got
agree.
it for me, or for Christmas,
Yeah.
And I'm just not quite as aware of what the prices were.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that would be-
Well, like I said, I did a bit of research to find out what prices are going back from all the way back probably the early 90s, when that's when I first bought my own game, I think. Other than that, like you, I think my parents bought things for me and I didn't really, I want this, I want that now, and I didn't realise how much things cost. But I'm going to go, first of all, probably through consoles and give you some ideas of what prices are.
Okay.
And you can make in comparison. First thing, obviously, before we were both around, I hope, Atari 2600, original price was just over, or just under, I think it was £179 accumulate.
Okay.
And what do you think, if you bought it now, how much that would be in inflation? How much do you think that would cost?
How much did it was? 100?
Just under £200. This is the first console that was a big...
I don't know, 400?
No, up, higher than that.
500?
Higher than that. In comparison to what you pay then to inflation, what you pay now.
600?
More.
700?
More.
800?
Just on 800. It was just under...
First time.
Yeah. You're so bang on. But yeah, just under £800. And that's probably one of the most expensive consoles with inflation has gone up. And that was an Atari 600, but we never had that. So
No. That's
the
mad
first
though, isn't it?
that completely shocked me. But then when you go for this list, the other things will even shock you even more.
Really? Okay. Well,
Right,
I'm looking forward to this already.
out of three consoles, what do you think has been the most expensive? PlayStation, Nintendo's consoles, Sony's, Nintendo's, or Xboxes? What do you think would be the most expensive? Out of the three, over all the years they've been out, what do you think the most expensive consoles have been? And I got this
I've
wrong.
got no idea.
I had no idea. I thought PlayStations were the more expensive.
My instinct was PlayStation,
Yeah.
but I'm going to probably say it's probably Nintendo or something.
Well, I'm going to do this. You wouldn't know. Yeah, I'm going to do this and see what... Nintendo, the first console I ever got, my parents got me, was just under £200 again. I think 100.
Which one was that?
That was a NES. That was the first one.
Fine, I had that as well.
Yeah, you had that as well. And in this day and age, you bought it now, or in inflation, it'd be about just over £400. So that's how different it has. And that was one of the most expensive consoles, supposedly, Nintendo ever brought out.
Oh, that's mad.
The next big console I had was the Super Nintendo. I don't know if you had that as well. That inflation hasn't gone up, actually. That was, again, just under £200. And because it came out later on, the inflation on that would be less. So that was only £300 and something.
Okay.
So the NES was more expensive to buy in those days than it is to buy a Super Nintendo. It's really strange if you work it out anyway. But that was quite surprising. I couldn't believe that Nintendo is more expensive than most, because the most expensive actually are 3DO.
Do you think we just think that they should be cheaper because they're old?
Yeah,
definitely. Old graphics
yeah,
and stuff.
exactly. But they weren't. They were quite expensive. And we never thought. I mean,
I suppose they're cutting edge of the day, though.
Well, they were all like, they were all like 8-bit, and they supposedly, again, looking at the research, the most expensive games, or started getting really expensive, is when it started getting to 16-bit, and then it really completely changed. All the prices of games, console hardware, jumped up so much, and then it's slowly getting down again. And then obviously the next generation of CDs came out, like PlayStation, and then 64, it jumped up again, and then it slowly went down. So it always goes up with the new console.
Tell me if I'm jumping ahead of what you've already got there, but did it change when we flipped from cartridge to CDs, or
cartridge and CDs are a big playing field? Nintendo's prices, I think, and a lot of people say the same thing, they went to CDs too late, and that's why their prices are so high for like the game for the N64 and stuff like that. Because the N64 came out when the PlayStation was out and the Saturn was out, and they cut their costs and the games are cheaper. I mean, the most expensive game, supposedly at the peak, was an N64 game. It was £80, and that was a basic game. That was £80 for an N64 game.
No.
That seriously, that was like one of the most peak games on consoles. That wasn't an import or anything like that. That was a normal UK game that came out £80.
On the other hand, though, I mean, I had an N64,
yeah,
and I had a PlayStation. I liked getting N64 games because you didn't get like the loading, things like that.
Yeah, the cartridge, I like cartridge. I love the fact putting them in.
So the fact you could pay more, and it didn't scratch.
Yeah.
You could pay a little bit more. What I considered at the time a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you'd get that extra.
And also,
I remember playing GoldenEye, and you could literally, when the game started, you could hit dit, and then you were playing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, also, think about it as well. They had automatic save on it, didn't it? You had they had memory cards in the spot. I can't remember now.
Did they have a thing you put in the back of the pad?
That was a rumble pack. Well, maybe no, it wasn't
I
memory
thought
card.
No,
it wasn't. No,
you
it
had
wasn't
overall.
Yeah, it was a memory card. Yeah, you're right. But I'm sure the game had its own memory as well, internal memory or something like that. But when disc came out, they had lost that, didn't they? Memory cards come out for PlayStation. You just put them above your little control pad, didn't you? In the slot. But that, like you said, N64 was the peak of the console games, and the prices on ROMs and things. That's why the cartridge is so expensive. And then came GameCube out, and they bought their own disc out, didn't they, for the GameCube? So it brought the prices down. But yeah, I was just going to say for the 3DO, that was at the time. This is the most expensive console that came out. Just over £700 when it came out. What
year is that?
That was 1993. All right. Now, if you bought it out now, or bought it now, it would just under £1,100 as a console with inflation the way it goes. That's a lot of money for a console. That was rubbish. It didn't do well. The games, I mean, the only games I can think of were like learning games, Zelda and Mario games that came out for it, and it didn't do well at all. What other ones here? You got, there we go. What have we got here? Alright, so we'll go to the more closer generation to what we had. What do you think a GameCube? Do you remember? Did you ever buy one of them, or did you have them?
I didn't have one. A few of my friends did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That came out.
That one.
Okay, that was £200 that came out.
Okay.
Inflation the way it was hasn't gone up too much. Only gone 260, so it's not jumped too much.
That's not bad. That's reasonable.
Now I thought this is what I thought the PlayStation was most expensive, because I remember buying a PlayStation 3 from brand new, and it was just over £500 to buy a PlayStation.
Yeah.
3. It's only not gone much because obviously there's not been much difference, but it's £567 in this day and age. You bought with that money then, what you would buy it now.
It's a good console though.
It was, but that was a lot of money for PlayStation at the time.
Yeah.
Because the Xbox 360 came out at the same time, and that only came out at £300.
Really?
So that's a big difference when it came out to what PlayStation. But I
That's
think that's why PlayStation took a while to catch up. I think because it was just too much money for someone to pay.
Yeah, they did drop the ball when they launched it.
Yeah, and then again the other way around, the Wii U. That was 250, and that hasn't jumped up at all. Actually, it's only gone up to 284, so it's not much of a difference there. But when you buy,
only came out 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, the inflation was different, wasn't it? Xbox, obviously, PlayStation. Straight away, the PlayStation was £400. The Xbox was £450, whatever it was, something stupid like that. But those are the consoles, so you can see what the difference was there. But NES supposedly was for what you paid for it and what's gone up inflation is probably
it's mad.
the most amount of money you spent in it. And I never did. I mean, my parents bought it for me as a Christmas present, and I never thought how much people pay for consoles then.
It makes you wonder, like, if you took a PS4 back in time to the 90s, how much it would be worth.
It's like the episode in South Park when he goes back and forth in time when he wants to get a Wii U.
Yeah,
he goes go forward so much, the Wii U's just not around anymore. No, I missed out.
Someone told me recently, I don't know how true this is, the amount of computing power in a PS4 is equivalent to every computer in the world from 1990 something. I don't know. That's just mad. Mind you, they said there's also more technology in your phone than there was to put a man on the moon.
There was crazy stuff, iPhones and stuff like that, and Android phones, But that's how far we've jumped and how much. I mean, think about how much we have on our phone nowadays. You can do anything on your phone pretty much now.
Makes you wonder what will happen in 20 years.
Yeah,
blows your mind, really.
Hope he doesn't blow mine because I want to be around. It'd be like a Total Recall.
Yeah.
But that's consoles. Now I've got some obviously game prices, so it's not too far off for games, but. What would you think? What would you most expect? What would you pay for a game now? Which is the best game of the year, what would you be willing to pay on a game? If you wanted this game, came out on the day it came out, how much would you pay?
How much would I pay now?
For a game, let's say, for example, Uncharted 4 comes out tomorrow. You want it from brand new. You want to get it date release. How much would you pay?
I'd probably pay 60 or 70 quid, maybe.
Yeah. If you had to.
If I had to.
Yeah, no, but...
If I really had to,
yeah,
I think if it was the game that I've been waiting my whole life, I'd pay up to £100.
It's going away for the whole life. Uncharted 4. So you pay that sort of £70, £80 max. Yeah?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you can't go too ridiculous, can you?
No. But what would you probably expect to pay? Probably £40, £50 for Uncharted?
Yeah, I'd say for a new game, I'd probably £50 I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't begrudge pay.
No, anything higher than that, you think, well, this is a bit too much. Unless it's come with something special, like maybe a pass, like a multiplayer pass, whatever.
Whatever they throw in, you know.
What they throw with a little DLC. See, I say exactly the same thing. I would not want to pay more than that because most of the time you could get a game from Game or game from Tesco's normally now or whatever. Yep. There are other supermarkets out there. I think I should say that.
Walmart, right?
But yeah, I think you wouldn't pay more than that. But obviously, years ago, people paying games. This is 1990, right? This is a game Strider that came out on the Genesis. Okay. People paying £75 for that game. That's when it came out first, and that's £75. And then if that came out again with inflation now, it works out just over 120 quid. Cool. So that's how much you were paying for a game back in the 90s. 1992.
Probably buy an arcade machine for that.
You probably could, but they wouldn't be a good one. No. That's the one I want. One not a good one. Final Fantasy 3.
Okay.
1992 that came out. A big game at the time, very big game. Again, that was just over £70. So that's a lot of money to pay on a game. And these, I guess you didn't have the options you have now, where you can get things online and whatever, but still have that sort of option. But then another game, supposedly the peak was around 2000. That's when the games are the most expensive.
Okay.
And that's why I said the game was like £80, that game in the N64. And also PlayStation 2 game had a game, it was £79, and that was Castlevania. That was the peak price as well.
What was the 80 quid game on Nintendo?
I didn't write that down.
Oh, okay.
No, I will remember it in a minute. I'll remember it and I'll say what it was. I'm sure it was like a cartoon game, like a Tiny Toons, like Bust Loose or something.
So it wasn't like one of the big players?
It wasn't. It wasn't a big game. I'm sure it was something like that. Or it's like it's some Disney game or something like that, but it wasn't a big game you expect, like maybe a FIFA or something. Yeah. Because those also games, like when they come out nowadays, obviously on genre, what you pay for a game. Like for example, a sports game, a football game, you don't pay more than £40 for. But maybe a shoot 'em up game or a game like Uncharted, you pay a bit more for, because obviously longer games. But yeah, that's the sort of prices that were coming out, and that's the big difference from now to then. So it has. Technically, prices have gone down quite a lot to what you'd pay for what you get for your value for money as well. And I think that's a big play in what people want to pay for their consoles or games. Now, would you begrudge paying... we always spoke about this already about DLC, but do you think that paying for these games, they should have the DLC with them? Because a lot of people say they should have the DLC with them. Are you paying that sort of price?
If you're paying the top end price, maybe.
Yeah.
But if they just bring out a game and it's a bog standard 40 quid, and then they say if you want all the DLC, it's 20 quid for the year, season pass.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of fair enough if you ask me,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think... I just can't believe how different prices are. And I really thought years ago prices were cheaper, but I started looking at the list.
It's mad.
We were paying loads of money for games years ago that now I would never pay for because they weren't that good. They weren't good games, and you're paying that sort of money for those games. I mean, what do you think the most played game was that you played when you were younger, like Pro Evo, stuff like that, those sort of games, do you think? Or
definitely on Nintendo, it was just Super Mario.
Yeah, okay.
Which you got through with the console.
Yeah, that's true.
It was probably the best game on it,
Yeah, and stuff like Super Mario Brothers 3, did you play games?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that was a biggie. If I was back then and that game was coming out and I'd just seen the film The Wizard,
yeah, that's true.
I'd be willing to pay the premium for that one. Yeah, you could.
I love The Wizard. That's the Power Glove. It was always very laugh.
It's all just one big advert for Super Mario 3.
That was a good thing because it did make the game amazing, and everyone wanted it, didn't they? It came out much later here though than over in America and Japan. Whatever. My friend said he came over here and said it's been out for months over there. It's like, why have we just got it? It just seemed a bit strange. But yeah, anyway.
You made me sad then, even though it's like years ago. I'm like, oh, I wanted that.
Yeah, well, it's a great game. I mean, those sort of games, like you said, you pay that. I'd pay that sort of money now. Like I pay for a normal game for that game. I think, but you could probably get that on an emulator or something quite cheaply. I'm sure it's on the Wii U, isn't it? It must be on a download or what the store they have, the Nintendo store.
It must be.
But
it is actually.
It is.
I know it is.
It is. Yeah. Okay. All right. But yeah, I just think it sort of blows my mind how different prices are to what they were, and obviously what people expect they're paying. And people say, "No, I'm not willing to pay that amount of money." But I think, well, what you did years ago, the games was less. Why are you not doing it now? And it just makes me quite think, why? Why wouldn't you do it?
Or people say they won't buy their children the latest console, but they had them when they were young.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but again, they're more. Look at this report; they're more expensive than they are now, and the way the inflation, people paying money, and where you got paid. I mean. Like I said, £200 for a NES years ago is a lot of money. So you've got to work out that way as well.
It is mad how game prices have changed.
Yeah.
And it's completely the opposite of what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, like I said, when I looked at these prices and what people have paid for in the past and we pay now, we are getting a lot more better value for money, and we are paying less than we're paying years ago. But I think it's really because there's so much competition. That's why we're paying less. Not because the games are different. I think it's just there's so much shops competing each other and people trying to outsell each other, and you're going to pay less. But yeah, that's what all I said. I was surprised myself, but it opened my eyes to what people are willing to pay. Yeah.
Good.
That's it. That's what I've got to this week.
That's cool. No, it was good. It was
good. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, if you do want to watch, please do subscribe down below, and also on Twitter as well if you want to find us there as well. Good night.
Good night.